Right, folks, good morning. Good morning. I know Stephen is still plugging himself in, which is perfectly fine. If you can just carry on, Steve. Don't stop, Stephen. Just carry on with that. Right. Good morning, and welcome to the Audit and Governance Committee. I know that we've got at least one new face, so it might just be worth doing a very, very quick round the table, quick introduction. Before we start, I actually ventured through the fire door at the end, or what's designated as the fire door, for the first time. So if there is any incident, I think it's through that door and then right down the stairs rather than going through the main chamber. I don't think there is any alarm scheduled. No one's advised me of that, so good. Let me start. My name's Graham Bell. I'm the chair of the committee and independent member, so I'll go to Helen and we'll just say a quick hello around the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Helen Davis, Democratic Services Support Officer. Thank you.
This morning, Graham. Morning, everyone. Stuart Green, co-opted member.
Morning, everyone. I'm Daniela Delachero-Smith, Head of Corporate Office and Risk.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Alex Homer, Director from RSM, and I provide the Internal Audit Service.
Well, hi, good morning. I'm Councillor Stephen Hadsted here, appointed by the GMCA. I'm also an Executive Member on Trafford Council as well.
Good morning all. My name is Rudy Thomas. I'm independent member. Outside this, I'm Head of Audit and Risk for St Helens Council.
Good morning, I'm Daniel Watson. I'm a partner with Forvis Mazars and I'm the External Auditor.
Good morning, it's Keith Mitchell, Interim Finance Director at Transport for the North.
Morning, I'm Lisa Pitt, Interim Financial Controller and Section 151.
Morning, Gavin Legg, Senior Lawyer at Transport for the North.
And I'm Martin Tugwell, Chief Executive of Transport for the North.
Splendid, thank you. Gavin, I think you wanted to just confirm where we are at in terms of chorusy, please.
Thanks, Chair. So we're not quorum at today's meeting, so we'll proceed as a conference call under the Chief Executive's constitutional delegated powers. So please note that as it's a conference call, no formal decisions can be made. However, TFN does not anticipate there being an issue, as the items on today's agenda are for the committee to consider or note only. Thank you, Chair.
Grant, thank you. Right. I don't know if there are any declarations of interest. You've got some apologies. Helen, you go for that.
Thanks, Chair. Received apologies from Councillor Joanna Baker-Rogers and absent without apologies from Councillor Claire Carragher.
Grant, thank you. So if there are any issues that people wish to bring to our attention, I'm assuming not. That's grand. Thank you. If we can move on to the minutes of the last meeting, I couldn't find too many outstanding actions from the minutes from the meeting in July. There was one specific point. I think we had some discussion about definitions and related to actions pertinent to the risk register. So I think, Daniela, that gets picked up in the update to the risk register. We did talk about review of committee effectiveness, and I've got a meeting with Joanne Barclay, I think, next week, just to pick up on the subject of committee attendance, which I will provide feedback on. So if there's nothing else from the minutes, we'll take those as agreed, if the committee's happy with that. Grand, thank you.
Sorry, Graham.
Sorry, Keith.
Sorry, Chair. There are just a couple of mods I was going to suggest that I spotted, which was actually my title and Lisa's. If we could just put interim FD and section 151 for Lisa rather than deputy. And I think there was on page 8 a reference to external auditors. I think it should be internal auditors under the internal audit report. Otherwise, all good.
Grand, thank you. I had made a mental note that Lisa had introduced herself as the Section 151 officer, so that was news to me as well, so that's good. Grand. So, corporate risk register, Daniela, what I've immediately before we started, and thank you for providing that executive introduction to the risk register, because that context, as you'll have heard me say before, is really vital in terms of understanding risk. If you're okay, what I've asked Martin to do is just to provide, because I hadn't read the operating report update until this morning, so if Martin could just provide some additional strategic context for our discussion about the risk register, I think that would be very helpful. Martin, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, colleagues. So yes, you've got the quarterly operating report. In terms of the overview, I would say there's probably two things to be kind of just painting a bit of a picture on. One is what's happening in the current financial year, and the purpose of the quarterly operating report is to demonstrate how we're delivering against the business plan. One of the things I think I'm always keen to highlight in these in this opportunity is the extent to which the support we provide for our constituent authorities is very much something that's valued by them. And we have a number of things that we provide access to in terms of what we call the TFN offer. You'll see we report regularly on that because the scale of the support and the value attached to it is quite significant. The investment we've made in discharging our duties as a statutory body means we've probably got assets there worth something in the order of £5 million, and making them available to our constituent authorities means that they're able to tap into it without having to do that work again. You do it once as TFN rather than 14 times as constituent authorities. And we can put some numbers to that. You know, we're now probably saved the public purse collectively something in the order of about £1 million, and it continues to increase. In the last month we've got figures for, which is July alone, we had another 22 requests for support through the TFN offer. And what we're finding, Chair, is we're also making a point of experience shows us that going out and talking to and with the individual authorities to help them get their knowledge of what's in there. You quite often don't know what's there until you've had somebody explain it to you. But once that happens, we then quite almost inevitably get a bit of a spike in terms of suddenly an authority realises, oh my goodness, we can use this to help ourselves. The other interesting thing, Chair, and it's relevant, is that as awareness of the TFN offer increases, so we're getting requests from partners, from constituent authorities about could they perhaps piggyback off the back of some of what we're doing, and so where we're potentially commissioning work, we're starting to get inquiries of, well, actually that's relevant to us. Could we maybe put a bit more in and put a bit more detail into it for our particular area, or are there particular pieces of infrastructure, particularly around IT, which we use a lot of data? Are there opportunities to ride off the back of some of the stuff we've got? So again, it's just demonstrating the investment being made in a publicly owned asset, which is in TFN, is then having benefits for our constituent authorities and broader for the public sector. And indeed, because it's made available more generally, it's being used by people way beyond the north as well, which is another example of how money's being saved. So all good progress there. I think the other thing just to pick up in terms of looking forward, because we're starting to get to that time of year where we'll be looking ahead to 26, 27. What's been happening over the course of the summer is in response to a request from the board to think about what the implications of changes in the external environment in which we operate. We've been doing some work over the course of the summer with officers from our constituent authorities about that. What do I mean by changes in the environment? Well, we've seen more and more mayoral combined authorities. We've got more mayors in the north, and it's a journey in which we'll see further mayors being established and MCAs being established over the next 12 to 18 months. They have a powerful leadership role within their communities. They have additional powers given to them from Whitehall. So they have their leadership role within their communities, and we need to think about what does that mean for the work that we do. Some of the work we've done in the past is quite rightly now the remit for those combined authorities. So there's a point about thinking about what that means. There's been changes in terms of things like the functions, the economic functions that used to be undertaken by LEPs. They're now responsibility of upper-tier authorities, MCAs or unitary authorities. So again, there's some changes there. We've got an ongoing conversation in relationship to rail reform, which, as the committee will be aware, we do quite a bit in the rail space, both as a policy but also with the Rail North Partnership in terms of overseeing with the department the delivery of contracts for Northern and TPE. So there's quite a bit of change going on out there, and the board said to us, now is the time to look at what TON is about, review its focus, and make sure that it is fit for purpose. So that's been a bit of work going on over the course of the summer, and it's leading to a proposition or a proposal that the board will consider at its meeting on the 15th of September. That's still policy work, it's still a work in progress, so it will be work that we take into the autumn. But the point is about trying to emphasise and make sure that we stay focused on what TFN is about. And what it comes down to is being really fixed on the pan-regional focus. So members will have heard increasingly elected mayors and leaders talking about the 118 billion extra prize for the economy if we unlock the north. That actually comes from a piece of work that TFN oversaw, the Northern Powerhouse Independent Economic Review. So you've got this focus about the size of the prize, and what we need to do is make sure that unlocking that is realised, and that's where things like Northern Powerhouse Rail become so important, because it's about connecting the great cities and towns better, so you can make it easier to get across the Pennines, but not just across the Pennines, from the northwest to the northeast, from South Yorkshire across to the northwest. So that pan-regional dimension, and doing work to support it, doing work on business cases, supporting our partners as they develop business cases to better reflect the circumstances in the north. These are all aspects of the work where we're adding value, as we can say, demonstrate through the TFN offer as well. So it's a bit of a reflection at the moment, a bit of refocusing back to that pan-regional dimension. There's a lot of opportunities still for us to work with and support the constituent authorities in that role. But I hope that gives you a bit of a flavour as to where the focus is moving forward, a refocusing about pan-northern abilities, making sure we're aligned to what the constituent authorities are wanting us to help them with and support, and continuing some of that groundbreaking research that we've done, I think particularly around transport-related social exclusion, where we've moved the dial, not just in the north, but actually nationally. Hope that helps, Chair.
Brilliant, thank you, Martin. I don't know if anybody has any immediate questions or thoughts, but that strategic scene setting for me is really important, particularly in terms of how we think about risk, context is everything, etc. Thank you, Martin. So just using that as a sort of an obvious, an easy segue to talking about risk. One of the things that I think about when I think about risk are changes, and I was trying to keep count of the number of times Martin used the word change, and I got a bit lost. So, but change is obviously a key theme, and what change tends to result in is risk, either a threat or an opportunity. So I think there is an obvious connection for us to keep in mind as a committee. As things change, if we have a risk register that's also changing and also dynamic, that feels right.
Yep.
A lot of organisations, unfortunately, suffer from risk registers that are a wee bit static, don't tend to keep up with. So we just need to keep challenging and pushing and encouraging TFN management to make sure that happens. Enough. A very long introduction, Daniela. Sorry. Over to you.
Thanks, Chair. And in terms of that point, you sort of referencing around change, we have sort of referenced that within 1.2.5 around how sort of the change in our external environment and then how that impacts on risks and how the TFN executive will look at that and in terms of the actions and controls that are against that as well. So since we last met and following feedback from the committee meeting we have updated the definitions included them in the report, in the matrix, in the dashboard, around the definitions for actions and controls. It is something that already forms part of our risk management strategy, but it's just helps for awareness. And something that we've also done is where something is in progress at the moment, we have included that within sort of the body of the report, and where it wouldn't be in progress, for example, it was on hold for any reason, we would include sort of a statement to that effect within the executive summary. I think to reassure you around the things that are in progress, where we have regular risk reviews, those would always be reviewed and challenged. But I think the important thing as well there is to highlight where we have something that could be in progress or key activities been made on that specific control. We would highlight that and bring that up in terms of the executive summary, so you're more aware of it, really. I think that's it in terms of the matrix has also been updated on the dashboard, so you can see visibly how many sort of controls we've got versus sort of live actions currently. In terms of updates to the corporate risk register, there hasn't been significant updates since we met in July, and the reason for that was normally we would run the report on corporate risk within May. However, what we did, we also sort of updated the risk register following the spending review announcement that we had in June. Section 1 of the Corporate Risk Register is due to be presented to TFN Board on the 15th of September. I think that's all really in terms of sort of key highlights from me. I guess, is there any questions on any of that?
Thanks, Daniel. Stuart, go ahead.
Chair, thank you. I have three questions, if I may, through you. The first two relate to risk 916. So this is the one we got at the very top of the list, variations from funding and costing assumptions. The first question on that one through you, Chair, is the structured engagement that we use as a control there seems perfectly reasonable as a control for that one. Just wonder what is the pattern of that engagement? Is it regularised? Are these key decision makers coming to us, or are we actively approaching them? My second question, if I may, is regarding the financial contingency planning that, again, we're applying as a control there. It's noted in the risk register as in progress. Where are we with that piece of work? Thank you.
Over to you, Daniel.
So in terms of the first control around the structured engagement with government and officials and decision makers, this is something that, Martin, you might want to sort of elaborate on this one, that is sort of ongoing in terms of the environment that we are in, and then in terms of how we move towards business planning as well. You tend to sort of probably see more engagement at that point. Martin, you might want to elaborate on that one a little further.
If I may, Chair, yes, I mean, just as part of the normal pattern of events, we have regular sponsorship meetings with the department, and they are held on throughout the course of the year, and it's a joint meeting. This time of the year, we start to have conversations about future funding. That's perfectly natural. It tends to run through the autumn and into the winter. Clearly, those are conversations where we're sharing our perspectives in terms of what we would need to deliver our duties. There's a conversation that goes on with government. Clearly, we're in the post-spending review period, so I suspect those conversations will be in the context that was set by the spending review. So it's a joint way of working, and if we've got any concerns or issues, we can raise them with the department. Likewise, the department can raise them with us. In terms of as we go into business planning, again, we will tend to set out some planning assumptions in terms of what we think are reasonable, and we would work with and check back with the department as to what we're assuming makes sense, recognising that they may not be in a position at that point in time following the spending review to confirm one way or the other. But it's a strong, trusting working relationship with the department whereby we can kind of have those conversations quite openly, quite honestly, and allow us to then plan with some, will allow us to move forward with some confidence.
Thanks, Martin. I can't remember us talking about stress testing previously, specifically in terms of either the accounts or risk. I mean, is it my experience of stress testing from financial services is that these things tend to be very structured. They follow a regulatory pattern. The results of those stress tests are recorded, and they're open to external scrutiny. I mean, are we talking about the same kind of stress testing? I'm looking at finance colleagues.
Sure. I'll take that one, thanks. I mean, we've started looking at a number of different scenarios, funding scenarios. As you're probably aware, we're not advised on what level of funding we're going to get for next year or future years till late in the day. So we've made a few predictions, and as OBT, Operational Business Team, we've considered those scenarios, and it's partly going to be down to actually what Martin was saying on the evolution of TFN and the discussions being had with members as to where we are on what we're delivering in future, as well as the funding. So it's two sides of that coin, and it's just early stages, but we're planning to do the business planning, and we're planning continuing to look at different scenarios depending on what information we're getting through this engagement with DFT and others.
Thank you, Keith. Back to you, Stuart. Are you done with your? Is that it?
Yes, Chair, I am. Thank you.
Stephen, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I was going to raise that was 916 myself as well, because obviously it does seem to feature throughout the whole agenda when you read through it. But one of the things I couldn't find is sort of like specifically, it relates obviously, as a colleague outlined there, but is there any particular projects that were under potential threat because of the outcomes of that? It's not quite clear exactly how it relates to them. It's very high level stuff, and I'm trying to get the detail actually how it relates on the ground and so forth. The other thing I'll just comment as well, obviously talk a lot about change, sort of term I tend to use myself as more like evolving, as I tend to think of things as well, because everything is continually moving upwards, so it's not so much changing, it's like evolving and hopefully better, hopefully because of that everything we would trust. Thank you.
I think, Councillor, your observation about life is an evolution. If you look back over 3 or 4 years, I've been in this role for 4 years as Chief Executive, and I look back at what TFN was doing and how we were organised. We've changed more than probably realised in that time. So I think it's a really good observation to say that any organisation that's going to be successful is always reflecting upon what it's doing and making sure it stays true to what the board wants to do. Because ultimately, as the executive, we are here to serve the board. When we went through the business planning process last autumn, which if obviously followed the general election. The business planning last year reflected the fact that there was a new government, that some of the things that we had been working on prior to the general election, the government had actually said they are going to take forward legislation. So, to be honest, there wasn't the need for us to be doing work. So our business plan last year changed to reflect that, both nationally, but also to reflect what our board members were saying, this is what they want us as an executive to focus on. So I think that process of evolution is quite natural. And again, that's where I come back to the piece of work we're doing this year as part of the sort of looking forward for TFN, is to make sure that we're giving the opportunity to have that steer from the TFN board as soon as possible, which is what we're looking for at the September meeting. That then allows us to go away and reflect upon what is it the outcomes that are needed around those particular pieces of work, and how are we resourced, and can we meet those? And as part of any process, there'll be probably some choices to be made. One thing I would say is one of the areas of work we do quite a bit on is we have what we call core funded work, but we're also funded to do work on behalf of the department in relationship to Northern Powerhouse Rail. Specifically, we do the technical work on the business case. In recent months, that's included work on business cases for a new station at Bradford. That work is directly commissioned to us from the department. Like everybody else, we've seen talk in the media channels recently about, there's an expectation that there will be some sort of announcement about the Northern Powerhouse Rail from the government at some point. So clearly there's an issue. There's a point that once there's an announcement from government, then we'll be needing to think about what that means for the work we do and what work they might want us to be doing moving forward to support it. So that's one aspect which is a quite significant piece of work where clearly there's something that will come in due course, and we'll have to reflect upon it as part of what we do as business planning.
Thank you, Martin. Is that you okay? Richard, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just one observation. Obviously, risk is fluid, dynamic, and one indicator of, I suppose, a healthy risk register would be, in my opinion, sort of movement or the trend of the risk over time. Just a note, really, although it's an excellent report, just all of the risks are flatlined at the moment, which can indicate stagnation. So it's just an observation. It may well be that they've all not moved, but it would be nice to see some going up and some going down.
Thanks, Richard. Yes, I think part of the reason for that is, and I know sort of I mentioned at the beginning that we have reviewed the register, but because it was reviewed sort of post-spending announcement in June, sort of at this stage now, not much has changed in terms of the score of the risks or little tweaks around some of the descriptions of maybe the controls and the actions. But I think that the next step for us is probably next time we meet, you probably will notice that sort of there is more change around that. But thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. On the main dashboard, and I may be confusing this dashboard with other dashboards, but did we have an indicator at some point in time to show whether there'd been any movement, a sort of visual up or down arrow or something like that, which tends to be quite... Okay. The trend arrow, yeah. Yeah, okay. Grand. Good. Okay. Are we good with that? Thank you all. Just in terms of deep dives, Danielle, I know that we postponed the one that was originally scheduled for today for the reasons I think that Martin has explained in his update. Is there a a deep dive planned for the next meeting? December, I can't remember.
So the plan now is for us to have a look in terms of the schedule. Normally what we do in December is we do the deep dive schedule and bring it to committee meeting just to get some comments on that. So the plan for December would be to present the schedule for what deep dives will take place from March and some comments around that from Chair, if that's okay.
Grand, thank you. Yeah, and I know we introduced deep dives not that long ago. I think it's absolutely the right thing for the committee to do, and I thank management for supporting that activity. So I think it's really healthy. If members have any topics that they would like Daniela to consider as part of that deep dive schedule, I would suggest not waiting for December, but share those thoughts, and I will try and do the same. Grant. Good. And I just need to share an apology because I've launched into things without really summarising the timing, and timing today is not usual. So just as a reminder to folk that we were planning to finish at about 12:15 and then head straight into a training session for members. So just bear with us in terms of that timing. Hopefully that was clear to people. But it's something that I forgot to mention at the beginning. Right, I think if we're finished with risk, Alex, we are into internal audit.
Thank you, Chair. So there are two papers from RSM today. The first one is our progress report, which sets out where we are in terms of delivering the audit plan. We've finalised one report since the last meeting, which is the Information Governance Framework Review, and I'll take you through just some of the key points when we get to that paper. But very much the paper that you have in front of you is the summary of where we are in terms of delivery. There's been one request of change to the audit programme, more around the timing than the actual scope, which is the contract management review. So that was due to take place over the summer, but to request due to availability, we've now deferred that to December. And again, we'll make sure that's aligned in terms of delivery to the committee. As you'll see in Appendix A, we've set out the timing of the audits and when they're due to come to the next committee, with the next review actually starting on the 13th of October, which is our fraud risk self-assessment. But I'll pause that stage. Happy to take any comments anyone has on the progress report. Thank you.
Anything from colleagues? Yeah, Richard, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Is it okay? It's a question to do with the information governance audit, if that's the right, if now's the right place to mention it.
Were you going to say anything else about information governance? Or?
I'm happy just to give an overview and then take the question. Is that okay? Thank you. So moving on to the final report, the Information Governance Framework Review. We were asked to include this in the audit programme because very much it was a new framework, and it was looking at how it was going to be embedded, making sure that that the framework has had the engagement. We were asked to undertake some benchmarking as well as part of the review, and then really to look at the document and make sure it was aligned in terms of the wider context. So you'll see within our report we've provided substantial assurance, and this is, as I said, around more the design rather than the embedding of the framework, because it is a relatively new document. There are 4 low actions that we've included, and they're predominantly around revisiting the framework document itself, some refinements as things have progressed in terms of developing the framework, particularly around training, for example. There's been further discussions around how to take that forward and make sure that you've got the engagement across the organisation. So there's a few refinements that need to take place in regards to the framework itself. and then the connections between what we call the live action plan, but also the management system. So that's where obviously the policies and procedural elements are monitored, is to make sure that they're aligned. So we were asked to, as I said, as part of this review, to really look at the design and how you take that forward, but making sure that there was no gaps in terms of the framework itself as part of the review. I'll pause at that stage. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just a question to do with the benchmarking that you've compared Transport for the North's information governance framework with examples across your client base. I suppose the question is, unless comparator A, B and C are regarded as very, very good at information governance, comparing them is probably not the best idea, in my opinion. I would say that I would have used the Information Commission, the ICO's information, the assurance framework that's produced by the ICO. Just wondered whether that had been taken into account, because that is for me the go-to benchmark, not against other organisations, just in case they're not very good at information governance.
Thank you very much. I understand that that's actually been done internally, so we were asked to just do that comparison across different organisations, just to see if there's anything from a good practice point that could be included. But yeah, it is a good point in terms of the ICO. Thank you.
Anything else, Richard? You good? Any questions from colleagues? Can I just take you back to the update just for a second? So deferring contract management, deferring anything always makes me feel a little nervous, if I'm honest. Does that deferring of the work have any impact on your ability to deliver the remainder of the plan? And are management confident that the reasons for that deferral are isolated to that individual audit? I guess are two obvious questions.
Thank you, Chair. So in regards to our delivery, we've got an agreed revised date, so we're comfortable in terms of being able to deliver in year, and also it will come to the next committee. My understanding is, as I said, it was around availability. It was August time, but I'm happy for management to comment further if that's okay.
Keith, can I look to you for input on it?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm comfortable that all the work that needs to be done by internal audit will happen in the financial year. And yeah, and apologies that our change in resources, it's been 3 out of 4, has impacted over the last 2 months. But I think I've mentioned to one or two before the meeting that the finance department is getting stronger, and the new staff we've had, now 3, including me, that all 3 feel that we're well settled in, picking up all the necessary work, and you know, hopefully we're getting ahead, and we'll be able to support internal audit in all of their work of the remainder of the financial year.
Grant, thank you. My nervousness was unfounded. That's fine. Can I just on the information governance, and I think this came up recently through a different audit report, but there is an action in the report relevant to training, and I guess it's just to encourage both the audit team and management to avoid actions that are potentially a little let's use the word weak. So management committing to review something doesn't fill me with any huge sense of confidence that there is a real understanding of what the issue is, what the control weakness might be. So the thing with the training, particularly with something new, you need people to understand and appreciate the policy, the controls that are associated with that policy. So training is actually really important, and if it should have been done as part of the induction and perhaps wasn't, I think the actions in respect of training could have been stronger. So I would encourage management to relook at that. And I think related to that point, I know that we've done testing through the audit, but that was a one-off exercise. Management won't have the assurance through those audit tests going forward. So once we've communicated through the training the requirements of the new information management framework, how does management get a sense that those controls are operating effectively and those controls are actually effective in delivering the objectives of the information management, the governance framework? So I wasn't getting, I guess, as much confidence from the report about what was going to happen next. I know it's difficult for you to do that because you can't predict the future and your job is to do some prescribed testing, but I think there is something there for management to think about as well in terms of how do you know that that's actually any good?
Thank you, Chair. So one of the conversations we had, and Joanne isn't here, obviously Gavin was on the discussions, was around the testing and embeddedness of the framework. It was felt at this stage we need to take it back a little in terms of the framework itself, how it's been developed and the stakeholder engagement, but it was proposed by management that a further review should be considered within the audit programme to make sure that actually that is being taken forward and that the framework is being embedded. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, Chair, with that as well, it's something similar that we did with the project management work. So once it's sort of been implemented and in place, we sort of brought that to audit and did a review on that. So similarly, we'll do the same thing with the information governance framework as well. It's such early stages that we probably wouldn't get enough information at this point, but in the future we will. We've got it on our list, haven't we, to bring that back. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So the point about training landed. Yeah. Okay. Good. So every time you bring an action that talks about consideration, it is likely to be challenged, I think, at committee. Just as a point, the final point about the update plan, Alex, strategic fraud risk self-assessment. Can you just remind me why it's referred to as a self-assessment? Because I couldn't quite recall. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So in regards to this particular piece of work, it will review management's consideration of the fraud risks within the organisation. We'll then work through that self-assessment, look at the controls that are in place to mitigate those risks. But it's more of a review to consider and compare those fraud risks that we would typically see in such an organisation, and a supportive piece that's delivered by our fraud and forensics team who live and breathe, I guess, these type of risks. So it starts the journey with a self-assessment, and then obviously we work with management in terms of what that includes, whether there's any gaps, and then look at the control environment as well.
Okay. So is that self-assessment already been done, or is that ongoing, or do we know?
So it's underway at the moment. So the sort of key documentation required for the audit is being submitted, and then the field work's due to take place in October.
Okay, grand. And apologies for banging on about fraud. I know we talked about it last time, but again, just an opportunity for me to encourage the audit team to ensure that we cover off those aspects that are proactive in terms of how we look to prevent instances of fraud through looking at people's behaviours, and we're not just focusing on those sort of evidential examples of fraudulent activity. We're actually thinking about prevention as well. Otherwise, I wouldn't sleep if I hadn't said that. Brilliant, thank you. Is that everything on internal audit? Are we happy to? Thank you, Alex, for that. So with your professional scepticism, Daniel, I think we are over to external audit.
Thanks, Chair. At the time of drafting this report, we'd received draft accounts from the finance team. There were a couple of updates required to those in respect of the new standard on leasing around the disclosures in the notes to the accounts, and management had also obtained a new actuarial valuation for the pension liabilities on the balance sheet. Those have both now been updated, and we've received updated accounts for those. So the work's well underway now on the external audit, and we will be reporting our audit completion report back to you at the next meeting in line with the timetable in our audit strategy memorandum. I don't have any concerns at this stage, and the audit's progressing well from my point of view. Hopefully management would say the same thing as well. The one thing that has held us up in previous years is the pension fund audit. That is also well underway. We expect to receive the assurances from that at the end of September, so that won't hold anything up in this year either. The other thing we will report alongside that is our work on value for money. So previously that was reported in February. That's now been brought forward to November, so we'll bring it to the next committee as information, but that will have been completed by that point and be published on the TFN's website. Other than that, I didn't have anything to add at this stage, just because the work's underway, so nothing to report really substantively, but happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Daniel. Colleagues, questions? You okay? Richard, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just wonder how much assurance external audit takes from internal audit, and how often do you talk?
One of the requirements that we have to undertake is, as part of our sort of audit planning procedures, is look at any work that internal audit's completed in year. As well as that, we also ask questions around whether they're aware of any fraud or any non-compliance of laws and regulations. We can't place direct reliance on the work, so for example, if Alex completed payroll sampling, we can't use that for our procedures, but what we can do is say if Alex identified weaknesses, we would probably take those into account and extend our sampling when we do our work. So that's sort of how we place reliance on internal audit, and that's throughout the process. So even if at the end of the audit something new came up, we wouldn't say, well, we've done the work now. We'd go back and look and reassess whether we need to do additional work at that point of the audit as well.
Grant, thank you. And you were kind enough to include a summary report that captures your own quality outputs, because I don't know whether everybody's aware, but audit firms are also subject to review and oversight. They don't just carry on and do whatever they like. So I don't know whether, Daniel, it's worth you just saying something briefly about that last page, because it is, I think it's important that the committee get an understanding and appreciation of how you operate and how your operation is viewed. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Yes. So this is the report from the Financial Reporting Council, which covers our work on what are known as major audits. So those are audits with expenditure over £500 million. It's quite a tough regime, and as you can see, over the past few years we've been on a journey in terms of quality. What I would say is this report is focused on our private sector work. Our public sector work is reported separately later in the year, but we're still under the same sort of quality measures that this report looks at as well. So we're really pleased with the findings from this year to have 90% of our audits reviewed as good or limited improvements needed. I myself was subject to 2 external reviews this year, so I know how difficult those reviews are. And again, nothing coming out of those either, you'll be pleased to hear. But it's always a journey. There will always be things that are found, and we always take those seriously. And we always look to improve as any audit firm would. You know, quality is what we strive to do on a daily basis, and it's really important that we deliver that both for ourselves, for you, and for the members of the public that rely on our audit opinion, because this is taxpayers' money that we're looking at.
Grant, thank you. Yeah, you just talking there to Richard about where you place reliance. Obviously, the committee places significant reliance on you and your firm to do that on our behalf. So that's grand. Was that everything, Daniel? Splendid. So just to go back to the point that I raised sort of belatedly, that was a relatively light agenda, and we've deliberately made space for training, and I think our trainers have now appeared in the room as if by magic. So our next meeting, our next formal committee meeting is scheduled for Friday the 5th in-person meeting, where we will be looking to approve the statement of accounts ahead of the board presentation, if that's correct. I haven't got the board meeting in my on my sheet, but I presume it's a couple of weeks after that. 8th, well, it's even sooner. Grand. So if everybody is happy to finish at that point, we'll call the meeting to a close, and then we'll move to a training session separately. Bless you. Thank you very much. Thank you.